Tip-ins are one of my favourite things to add to my junk journals because they are interactive, they add so many interesting layers, and there are also loads of different ways that you can add tip-ins to your junk journals. Today I'm going to be adding some tip-ins to my journal, but as you can see, I have loads of journals out on my desk here because I thought I would also show you some examples of how I use tip-ins within my junk journals, because I don't think a journal goes by where I don't add at least one tip-in minimum, but normally there's quite a few throughout. So like I said, there's so many different ways that you can add tip-ins to your pages, whether it's the actual way that you're adding the paper to the pages or the type of material that you are using as well. So I thought I would share some examples of how I've created tip-ins in my different journals here. As you can see, there's all sorts of shapes and sizes of pages, and maybe this might give you some ideas and things you might want to try in your own journals. If you don't know what a tip-in is, a tip-in is originally a bookbinding technique where pages that were loose would be added in or tipped into the book after the fact. So you normally do this at the center here, so where you've got the spine, and that way then this adds your extra piece into your book. So you can do this as a full page or as a half page. The actual size of the thing that you are tipping in will totally depend on what you want to add to your book. So this one here, as you can see, I've done pretty much a full page almost, and it just acts as a way to give you more space for ephemera or for writing or for anything that you want to add in to your journal pages. People do this a lot with leaflets and flyers. If they're too big to maybe cut up and you want to save the whole thing, you can just tip it in and include it as an extra page to work with. This example here just so happens to be a pocket as well. So you don't have to have something that is completely flat. So you could add just a sheet of like paper, but you can also add pockets like this as well. Another example of this is this one here, where I've done just a half page. This here I have just added in, and it is a pocket, and then it just has the extra space for little bits of writing here. So the easiest way to add a tip-in is with washi tape. I normally add on the front and then also the back sometimes if it's a heavier piece of paper, for example. And the good thing about washi tape is obviously there's all sorts of different patterns and colors that you can use, but you can also just use plain sellotape as well, and that actually won't interrupt any of the patterns if you want more of a seamless addition to a page. But this is just an example here. As you can see, I've also put a little tab on the side here so it's easy to fold. So it's just a really fun way to be able to add some more interactive elements to your journal pages. This example here that's also in a no-sew journal is very much the same. So this is also a pocket that I have added in. So you can see here I've got this tag that I've popped in, and this was actually made just using a junk mail envelope. So you can see there the transparency that that has created for the pocket. So all I had to do was just cut it down to the size that I wanted it for the page. I didn't have to construct anything for this, and you can see that I've actually taped this in the opposite direction. So rather than having this being in the middle of my page, it sort of folds out here, and then I've decorated both sides of this as a little feature. So it can either be part of your page or it can be something completely separate. So I've just obviously done something a little bit different there on the page. And something I've done quite a few times when I've added tip-ins is to actually start incorporating bits of collage. So rather than just having the washi tape attaching your extra piece, you can also use little bits of papers, little scraps and collage pieces to add them in as well. And that way then it doesn't look so harsh if you've just got like a singular piece of washi tape running against it. It almost blends in and kind of looks like it's part of the page as well. So that's something that I quite like to do with a few of my tip-ins as well. But like I was saying, there's so many different materials that you can use when it comes to tip-ins as well. So a really fun thing that I like to play with is transparencies and like translucent effects. So using things like leftover plastic packaging here is a really great way to be able to tip something in and not necessarily detract too much from what you've got going on the page. So for example, this here, I had this collage background that I did and I didn't actually want to cover it up. So tip-ins are really great if you don't want to commit to covering something up and still being able to add extra stuff onto your page. You can just use a tip-in for that and you kind of get the best of both there. So by adding this clear element here, I've actually been able to add something that almost like floats on top of the page, but I haven't had to stick it down onto the page itself. So there's so many different ways that you can play around with this in terms of having like a little collage on top, and it's sort of, you can lift it up and maybe hide something underneath, for example. But I didn't washi tape this in. I actually just used a stapler. So I just stapled a couple of times on the top, and that way then I was able to have this lift up, and I've done it at the top, as you can see. So rather than with the other examples I've done it on the side, this one I've just done it at the top. Now I know not everybody loves staples, but honestly I kind of quite like staples when they are sort of like haphazardly done on a journal page, because I just think it adds to the more scrappy feel of a junk journal, I guess. So that's something I really enjoy doing. And this piece here is the same. So I've just got this little note piece here where I've done some lettering, and I just thought it would be really fun to have this as a translucent effect over the collage I've got going on here. So I just decided to staple it at the top, and so that way then it's sort of tipped in and I can lift it up and still see what is underneath this. So definitely play around with some translucent effects as well, because I think they're really fun to add. And here are a few more examples of the pieces that are stapled in. So you can see I've just stapled in this image here onto what is very much a scrappy layout here with all the pages of different sizes. So tip-ins are really great if you want to have pages of different shapes and sizes. So this piece here that lays on the top of this one, so what I've actually done is I have glued, like, you know, a sort of almost half of it onto this page, and then I've left it overhanging and then just popped some washi tape on the reverse, and that way then it has become sort of like a half page, and I've tipped it in that way. So that's a slightly different way as well. This piece here as well is also one that I have just stapled in as a tip-in, and it was just a drawing I had done on some vellum, and I just decided to add it like this so I didn't have to commit to sticking it down. And I just really like the translucent effect that you can get from something like this, where you've just sort of stapled it on top of whatever you've already got on your page. And what this is good for as well is if you have a busy journal background with lots of collage or lots of colour, lots of things going on, and you don't know where to put your writing, having something layered over the top, especially if it is translucent like this, is really fun. And then you can do your writing on top of the vellum or the tracing paper itself, so you get like a ghosted effect where you're still able to have your writing, but you also are able to see what's underneath. And that way then when you lift it up, you can still read what you have written on the actual tip-in itself. And I think it always looks really cool when you do it with a white pen as well. So I like to use a white Uniball Signo, and I'll write on top of the tracing paper or whatever translucent paper I've got, and that way then it kind of pops on the top, on the surface of everything else that you've got going on for the page. So that's a really fun idea that you can try in your pages. And speaking of journals that have pages that are folding out in different directions, so this paint sample book that I was working on, this has a postcard that I've added. So I've tipped this in, and obviously this postcard is not the right size for this journal at all. I mean, not many things were, to be honest. So this kind of really forced me to get a bit creative with how I was adding stuff to it. So I've just used some washi tape here. So I've used two different patterns. So I've used a nice blue one here on this side, and then just a pink on the reverse. And then what I actually did was I just folded this in half. So then I was able to have sort of it look like one piece when it's unfolded like this, but also when I fold it up, I've just got this that can easily work as one piece on its own, and then when you turn it over, this piece works on its own as well, and then I've still got the original here on the inside as well. So you can definitely play around with adding folded things as well with tip-ins, but you obviously just want to be a little bit careful that things don't get too bulky, especially if you're adding them to the spine of a journal as well, because that's where they can really put a little bit of stress on the spine. So, you know, tip-ins are really fun, but you probably don't want to add like 4 tip-ins to every single page in a journal, because things will get super chunky in that journal with all the different pages. But yeah, there's also different things that you can tip in as well. So like postcards, notes, letters, etc. are really great for adding just more interest to your pages, and gives you more ways that you can get a little bit creative with things. And then the last example I wanted to show you here was from this no-sew journal made with envelopes, because I added one here that has a tip-in that flips up this way. So rather than opening sideways, I guess, it goes up like this, and I was able to add some layered elements to this. So this is actually 2 tip-ins, but I've added this just with staples. So it goes upwards like this with the original image that I've got here and some book paper on the back. And then I stapled on the left-hand side here, and this creates a bit of a secondary tip-in, almost like one on top. So it just adds a nice layer, and it's just really good, I think, if you don't want to commit to sticking anything down, you can just tip it in. And, you know, even if you use washi tape, because washi tape is fairly forgiving in terms of being repositionable. So if you want to move things around on your journal pages, tipping them in is a good way to do that, because you can get away a little bit more with moving things around when you add them like that. And then this example here is actually where I have added the extra pages as a little bit of a cluster, I guess. So they sort of rotate around the page because I've added them with just a brad. So I took a few bits of paper here, as you can see, sort of clustered them together, and then used the brad to attach them. So that way I'm able to kind of move this piece here and have this page underneath, and then move this piece and have the original page underneath. So this is just really great if you wanted to be able to add some more layers to your page and just have that interactive element, where obviously, as I'm showing now, you can just like spin your pages around on your journal. That's always really fun. And as I was mentioning before with the translucent effect, this is also something that would lend itself really well to having a layer of tracing paper or something like that, and you're just able to then play around with the movement on your pages. So those are some ways that I have used tip-ins within my journal. So now let's get to adding the tip-ins to my current junk journal. Okay, so let's add some tip-ins to this journal. So I just added some things to the front of my journal there, almost as a bit of a reminder to me to add them in as tip-ins. So I've got a couple of little like pockets here that I thought would be really great, because adding flat tip-ins is really cool, but also being able to have ones that I can tuck things into as well will be really great, especially because I want to add these to my creative commonplace insert that I've got in this journal. Now, the eagle-eyed amongst you may notice that this looks a little bit different than it did the last time I showed this. So I was trying to think about why I hadn't come back to this journal in a while, because I haven't really been using it that much, and I decided that I wanted to give it a little bit of a facelift. So it's kind of halfway through its little makeover. I haven't really finished collaging it yet, so I've just started adding some bits of collage here at the moment, so it's far from finished. Just got a few different bits on here at the moment, but I was trying to go for more of a like pink and neutral color scheme, and hopefully that'll work to bring things together a little bit more. So I'm not quite sure how I want this to look once it's finished. I've not really got an idea in mind. I mean, maybe I'll add some text to give it a title, But other than that, I was just sort of adding bits and pieces. So it's a work in progress and I'll come back to it. So, you know, much like the rest of this journal is also a work in progress. So I have all sorts of things in here. And again, this journal is tip-in central. I've got all sorts of bits and pieces that I've been adding in. And so I wanted to add in some more papers to give me some more spaces to journal on and to add some extra things to, and I guess just to make it feel a little bit more like fresh to me. I don't know, I guess maybe I got a little bit bored with looking at the same papers, so I just decided it might be a good time to add some extra things to this. So let me just see. This is definitely like such an eclectic journal. It's very different to some of my other ones, especially because I've been trying to find places where I can like squeeze in like writing on different sections, but also having the visual elements there as well. So I'm thinking this might look nice tipped in maybe here, and then that way then it folds over and I can add things into the envelope there. So I think I might tape this here. So I've just got a few different washi tapes here. So I picked out some fairly neutral patterns, but then also this really nice Note and Wish blue one, which I thought would go really nicely with something like this. So let's use maybe a grid or perhaps some pink. In fact, let's go with this one. Let's go something slightly different because we've already got the pink on the flower itself. So I'm thinking this might look nice with something slightly different. Or maybe, do you know what? No, I'm actually going to put it in the center, I think. Let's just add this around about here. And then maybe let's use the pink on the reverse because we're not competing then with the flower. So there we go, we've got our extra page that is also a pocket as well. So let's add this extra piece here as well. I think I'm going to add this one here towards the back of this journal, and then I think I'm going to use this green here to have something of a pattern, but I don't want to compete too much with the paper that I've already got on the other side of this page. So there we have this extra page here tipped in and space to add stuff there in the pocket, and I've also done the same here with a glassine envelope. So I've actually just torn it to be the size that I need it to be for this journal, and then I have added just some washi tape here on the back, because what I want to do, like I was mentioning earlier with some of my journal pages, is to actually collage across them and use that as the way to join them together, because I think that will work really nicely with this being a translucent effect. So that is that extra page, and then I've also added one here that is almost a bit of a like fold out page. So rather than using washi tape, I've just glued this piece of paper in here. So I wanted something that I was able to add my writing to, because this journal I have been adding like quotes and things from books too. So I'm trying to prioritize papers that are a little bit more on the plainer side that I can work with rather than against. So I've glued this little strip here on this side of the paper, and then I have folded it over and folded it back on itself to create a bit of a like fold out piece almost that is still a tip in, and I'll probably add a paper clip or something to this just so that it doesn't obviously fly everywhere in the journal. But I just thought this would be a really great way to be able to have some extra space, and I think it helps to break up this brown paper as well, because I've done this like full sheet of this really thin brown paper, which I think is really nice to have, and I'll probably do like white pen on this or something, but I think this just helps to break that up a little bit. So those are the tip-ins that I have added to this journal. It's a very eclectic mix of papers, this one, but I also don't want to add too many because I am very conscious of putting too much pressure on the spine of this one. But even the pages at the front here, these are like so many different tip-ins. I think there's like 1 or 2 pages and it's all like so many different layers, so it's always really fun to see how things like this come together. Like this is a tip-in, and then this is a tip-in on a tip-in, and then this is a tip-in on a tip-in on a tip-in. So, you know, you can kind of get carried away with adding things to this, but with this being just an insert, I obviously don't want to add too much to this. But I think going into a journal that I haven't used in a while and just adding these extra pages, I think helps to make it feel a little bit more fresh. So rather than me impulsively going, okay, well, maybe I'll just like bind a new journal, like it's so easy to do that. So I've decided I'm just going to pop some tip-ins into an old journal, make it feel fresh, add the extra pages, and now I can get back to working on this, because I'm excited to, you know, see what I can add into like this pocket here, for example, and it just makes it feel like there's more possibilities with what I can create on this. So I hope you enjoyed joining me for this journaling session, and maybe it's inspired you to add some more tip-ins to your journal pages as well. I'd love to know your favorite ways to add tip-ins to your journals and the things that you add, so let me know down below in the comments. But as always, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.